What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Torch Trans Am Entertainment YouTube video, and today's subject is going to be the car itself. So we got a lot of new subscribers, and I kind of want to just go over the car just to let everyone know what it is, what's in it, a little background story behind it. And then also today I am doing some tuning courses, so I want to actually pin my ECU and wire in my wideband so I can monitor on my laptop. So we're going to be doing just some basic, maintenance checks, making sure everything's good from last time. And I do plan on entering in another road race event, hopefully, so long as nothing, flags me to not want to go. And we'll see how we do there. So let's get started. So this is my 1986 Pontiac Trans Am. I've had this car for about now 8-9 years, roughly. And this is as stock appearing from the outside as it gets, because this thing has roughly about 290,000 kilometers on the body itself. And that's really the most original parts of the car, its body itself. This car I bought really cheap when I was in a Jam. So this is not my first Trans Am, this is my third Trans Am as well. And the story behind that is the second one that I had, which has also been on the channel, my really early YouTube videos years and years ago. Another 86 Trans Am that I had was red T-top. That's the car I did my first motor swap on. I did a 355 build, I did a 383 build. And then when those really went downhill, I made my choice to go LS, and I bought a used LS1. That had piston knock in it when I got it. Knew it, but it came with computer harness. It was running, and I got it really cheap, and I was experimenting. So I threw that in there into that car, found a used 6-speed transmission, and did my first swap. Went so well that I no longer want to go to a small block Chevy anymore. I was done with the Gen 2 or Gen 1 small block Chev. I was hooked. So that started my LS crave. From there, that car, when the LS1 finally gave it the ghost, I found a used LQ4 block that I put in as a replacement. And I did a small cam in that as well. Switched over to 243 heads, and it made pretty decent power. It did about 400 horsepower at the wheel. I ran out of track.
Oh, yes.
It did low 12s, and I was happy. What made Torch come to be was that car. So that car ended up having two fires in that car. One fire was with my 355. Shortly after I had it built, I had a massive oil leak and caught fire as I was going to have that car painted. And that just kind of killed that whole vibe there. And then the second fire was the car itself had an electrical fire on the inside in my driveway, which I caught early enough, but the fire happened to the passenger side by the ECU. So I don't know the exact cause of the fire. I think it was the dome light was on, so the door pin went, and these cars, they use pretty hot 194 bulbs or of that type, and that was on, and it melted the plastic and started to burn and go up, and then that went from there. And the fire was in the passenger side dash area, and it came up. So the windshield went, it popped, half the dash went, and I was done. The car itself, that car, after the numerous motors that I had, and I made good torque in that car, I twisted that chassis pretty good. T-tops would start to really leak, wouldn't really set in nicely. You try to lock it in, you can wiggle them. The car dog-legged almost. It was pretty twisted. It was done. So when that fire happened, I wanted to take everything out of that car and just put it into another chassis because it's the quickest and easiest thing to do. And I found this. This was a car that a newlywed couple was looking to get rid of, or the husband had to get rid of because the wife no longer wanted to have it. It had to go. They weren't doing anything with it, and it was just sitting there in their house or their driveway for quite some time. So I bought this for a steal. It was I think like $800 when I bought it, and I bought it pretty much sight unseen. It had a 305 in it, automatic, and I needed a chassis. So I took a look under it. It didn't look that fairly rotted. The body was fairly faded, but I didn't really care, and there were no crazy holes in it at that time, or for what I could see without jacking the car up. The tires were flat, so I couldn't really get under there, but I didn't care. Got it home. That following week, I took my my LQ4 and I stuffed it in this chassis. So that was a 3-day swap, just straight swap to swap, car to car, and from there things progressed. So I nicknamed this car Torch because everything that came into this car was from the burnt car, and that car previously I'd called Red Bull. So that's where things lie. So over the years, I've done little in terms of motor mods, but I went through 2 different LQ4 blocks in this car. So the original LQ4 that I have, or that I used in this car, is now back in this car, and I've had this block rebuilt 3 times, and I had another block done that I cracked, and then put this one back in because I had it as a spare, or I had my friend had it as a spare as I was gonna sell it to him, and he ended up didn't using it. So let's talk about the actual motor. So it is a Gen 3 LQ4 stock crank. It's got DSS Racing forged pistons and rods. It is not bored or honed. It has a underdrive pulley on it, F-body accessories, Melling high pressure oil pump, Texas Speed Stage 2 turbo cam. It is stock 317 heads right now, with 660 titanium valve spring kit from TSP as well. LS6 intake, stock LS6 intake, stock ported throttle body as well, and then stock coils, stock wiring harness, Siemens Deca 80 injectors. I have a Holley fuel pressure regulator. It's 60 pounds. It's not boost referenced yet, but I will need to. In previous videos, you saw that I've upgraded the radiator, so it's a aftermarket rad, Durali fans. Turbo-wise, it's a VSS Racing Next Gen or Gen 2, I guess you would call it, 7875. It is a 4-inch exit necked down to a 3-inch exhaust. I have the merge pipe coming up front, so it's a front mount, and then I have a loud valve dump in the fender. I also have a 4-inch dump at the back just before the diff as well, and still have a GM-MG muffler out back. So that's the exhaust setup on the car. So it does have a unique sound. You don't see too many F-bodies with a GM-MG muffler anymore. When the car is naturally aspirated, it did sound really good that way. I'm not sure if I quite like it now with the turbo though. So who knows where that's going to go to. Suspension wise, so I've had the suspension from the previous car also transferred over to this as well. So it is Eibach springs. I believe they're pro springs. So the red springs, so it's a 2-inch drop in the front. Bilstein shocks up front and in the back as well. The BMR strut tower brace, Wonder Bar brace underneath as well. Brakes wise, this is from a 2002 F body as well. So we got LS1 brakes up front, and in the rear I have LT1 backs in the here as well. So the rear end, this is a Dana S60 from Strange Engineering. I paid a pretty penny for that. I'll get the car up and we'll take a look at that as well. Solid rear axle. So this originally came with a 9-bolt, the Australian 9-bolts, which are pretty tough. I rode that thing out even with this setup, making 700 horsepower or just above that, and it took it pretty well. What did that thing in was the cones inside the diff. I knew they were starting to go and they're starting to slip, and eventually it started becoming a one-wheel peel. So it was time. Didn't make any noise, but I didn't have good traction either. So I knew it was time to do a diff, and I ponied up and I went with the Dana. It is a much heavier rear end for sure, but it is solid. It has taken all the abuse I could throw at it so far. My only gripe, it leaks. It's pretty common, but it does leak diff fluid, which is one of the items I want to check today as well. So drive shaft is also custom made. It is a 3-inch steel drive shaft rated for 800 horsepower. So that's in there as well. It is a 6-speed that has been rebuilt, a stage 2 tick rebuild kit. I do want to do some further upgrades with that. The input shaft bearing is starting to go, so I can start to hear it now. In front of that is a Monster twin disc stage 2 clutch. Also, it drives like a stock LS7 clutch. Very minor chatter, and I mean very, very minor. Takes all the abuse. It was rated, I believe they rate them at 700 or 800 foot-pound. I am over that, but it hasn't given me a lick of problems. Stock master cylinder for the brakes as well. I used to have a tick in there, and with the Monster clutch, it was not the greatest. It was really, really stiff. It was really hard to set up and get truly dialed in. So I took it out, I put a stock one in, did the drill mod, and beautiful. So really easy to drive in traffic for the most part. But yeah, that completes that. Car itself, last time I had it on the dyno, made 770 wheel horsepower at about 19 pounds of boost and 810 foot-pound torque. I have not redone it since I changed turbos, but I do want to get that done as well this year and see what it makes. I had a issue with the motor last year where the oil pump failed, and I took out lifters, the cam bearings were slightly trashed as well, so I had that redone, and the pistons had to be re-cleaned, and a couple of them had slightly scored or just slightly messed up rings. So the coating on the pistons is now gone, which I'm not the happiest about, but there's nothing you can do. I still reuse the pistons. They're perfect shape, just had to be re-cleaned or dipped. So I want to see what it makes now. It seems to make the same, if not maybe a little bit more power with the new turbo. So I want to kind of test the limits of that. So what I've done inside the fuel tank is a Hellcat fuel pump. Those are rated at about, I think, 525 liters per hour. I might want to set that up and go a little bit bigger. Fuel lines are all built by myself. They are a Dash 8 line, front and back, for feed and return. I need to probably upgrade and put a secondary pump in there if I want to turn things up a little bit more, and maybe upgrade injectors as well. Just, I'm at 98% duty cycle at full tilt, so it's on a fine line when I want to go all out, and I don't generally run the car full boost for a very long period of time because I don't want to lean out, and I'm done doing motors. So that's where we stand there. Inside the car is fairly stock as well. So body wise, I've experimented with a little bit in terms of wrapping the car, just trying it myself, and this car, to me, I'm not trying to make it pretty whatsoever. You'll see a lot of people asking me about painting the body and making it perfect. The car has been hit before I got it twice, front and back. I've seen evidence of it, and I took the bumper off to do the intercooler. The rebar, that kind of stuff is bent. Same with the back bumper as well. It's been welded and patched and stuff like that. So to me, to make it a perfect looking car again, I just don't care to. Plus, it gives the sleeper effect. People don't really expect much when they see this thing pull up. They hear it, but they don't expect it to do what it does. The tires are a giveaway that something might be going on, but other than that, I don't really care to make it perfect in that regard. I do have to fix the windshield. It is leaking, and that's one of my other concerns there. But interior wise is fairly stock. I do have a roll cage in the car, so it is an 8-point. I do not have the harness bar welded in, but I will have to have that done soon because they're starting to pick at me about it when I go to the track. Aftermarket steering wheel. I have triple gauges, so I have gauges for each O2 sensor, an aftermarket monster tack, because the factory one is very inaccurate, and I have a shift light attached to it. I have a line lock button here. Secondary button I will probably hook up to the two-step. Right now I have it hooked up to clutch, and then on the off position, or when the clutch is not pressed in, activates the secondary, which is set to my rev limiter, which is now at 6,500 RPM. We have 4th gen seats, front and back, 4th gen console. I put in a Android radio doubled in, so I can monitor things through there, through OBD2 as well when I don't have my laptop with me. And then other than that, stock gauges. Aside from that, you'll see the boost controller, so to go fast bits, boost controller, so it allows me to have 6 presets for my boost settings, which I'm still fine tuning as well, and that really takes care of the inside. This does have a stereo system, so it is old school, and a lot of people think I should probably rip it out because it takes a lot of weight. It actually doesn't. So 2 amps, 4 channel, and a sub amp. I got 2 12s, and then just generic speakers inside the car as well. So I mean, I like to have some music while I drive. I mean, I do drive the car a lot in the summer. It is my daily, and so gotta have some music. So that's really the overview of the car.